Welcome back to the channel. My name is Stanislav. I am a physical therapist and a judoka, and I've practiced the sport for 17 plus years. And also I've developed double tendinopathy to my elbows for a period of my life, and it was freaking horrible. So what happened in that period that I was training around 4 to 5 times a week in judo, and I was also training with strength and conditioning. And I remember that after a period when I had several increase of training, I was doing a lot of randori, I was doing a lot of rolling in that weeks, I developed a tendinopathy in the medial side of my elbow, left and right at the same time. And it was very painful, and it was really horrible because I wasn't even able to do my grips properly. And the thing is, why that kind of pain arises? Because you might have the same problem, okay? Why does internal elbow pain happens? By the way, I haven't told something really important, which is there is no trauma from that, okay? It's not that someone made you an arm bar and hyperextended your elbow. It's something that comes without a traumatic event, something that comes from excessive workload. What happens when you overload your internal tendons is that when you exceed the loading capacity of the tissues. What the fuck have I just told? Basically, you should imagine your tendon as having a certain loading capacity. It can perform a certain amount of work, it becomes to be painful. When you do too much, your tendon gets mad and will start to hurt. Why? But specifically, why does that thing happens practically in an operative way? Why does that happen? The first cause could be you increased volume of training too much in too short period of time. In my case, it was that I started to perform too much randoris, too much rolling in a very short period of time. So you increased volume of training. The second cause could be you might be doing some repetitive movements that are stressing the elbow too much. For example, my favorite technique is Morote Suinagi, and when you perform a lot of uchikomis of Morote Suinagi, you're doing this a lot. Imagine I am grabbing here the lapel, I'm doing this a lot, this movement. And when you're performing Morote Suinagi a lot, you have this movement and there is a lot of stress in the internal side of the elbow. So doing also repetitive movements, repetitive uchikomis, which is something that is really common among judoka, you might develop some tendinopathy in the medial side of your elbow. The third thing is maybe you're not even doing too much uchikomis. The thing is your elbows are simply weak and needs to get stronger. Now, what you might ask is, can't I simply rest and let the elbow heal? So here's the thing, if that's a tendinopathy, which is not for sure, so if you have medial elbow pain, it's likely a tendinopathy if you're judoka, but it could be also a nerve problem, it could be also a bone problem. There are all sorts of things that we should rule out before saying that this is a tendinopathy. But as a general rule, tendons are an active structure. Tendons are basically this structure that is tied to the muscle and it's tied to the bone. When you're using your muscles, the tendon gets stressed, and it responds to loading. When you're using your muscle, you're also using your tendon, and your tendon responds to loading. When tendons are not used, they become weaker because since they are an active structure, when they're not used, the body thinks, okay, why should I keep this structure that is not really get used? So your tendons becomes deconditioned. They become less stronger, and when you start to load them again, they will get painful again. So if you give the tendons loading, what will happen is once you give mechanical tension to the tendon, your body will start to increase the amount of collagen fiber that will go in that specific tendon. So the tendon will become thicker, it becomes stronger and more able to withstand much more loading. So since they are stronger and more resilient, you will develop much less pain. So the problem is not about doing exercise or resting completely. It's about giving to your tendon intelligent loading so that it will become much more better and much more resilient. So what you should do when you have a medial tendinopathy. There are 3 general strategies that you can use. The first thing is graded activity. When I had both pain in my lateral elbows, what happened in my training, and I can tell you it's crazy, after 40 minutes specifically, it was not before, not more, it was 40 minutes of training, I started to have pain in both of my elbows. If I was doing less, I didn't have pain at all. If I was doing more, I had a lot of pain in my elbows. So what you should do is graded activity. Instead of doing 40 minutes of randori, I was doing 30. And I was stopping. Even if if my elbows felt good, I was stopping anyway. And when the next week I was trying to do a little bit more. I was trying to do 35 minutes of randori. And then I was trying to do 38 minutes of randori. And then I will do 40 and my elbows felt good. Graded activity is a strategy that is used in physical therapy in order to keep training and keep adapting the tissues without overloading them too much. What you should do is take the volume, take whatever the exercise you're doing that give you pain, and cut off 20% of the volume. For example, let's say that you do 10 randoris, and after 10 randoris you develop pain in your elbows. Instead of doing 10, you do 8. Okay? This is the thing. You're giving to your elbows a stimulus that will improve the tendons, but it's not too much loading so that it will cause you to have pain. And over time, if the pain is manageable, you start to increase the volume. This is called graded activity, and you do that in the specific thing in your sport. The second thing that you should do is to insert a specific exercise that will increase the loading capacity of your elbow. As I said before, when you give to tendons intelligent loading, they will adapt and they will become stronger. And you can do that by directly loading the tendon and the structure around them. So exercises like wrist curls with dumbbells, or bicep curl with the dumbbell, extension with the dumbbell, and pronosupination. And an exercise that is never done by grapplers, but is extremely important, is pronosupination. There is a video of Islam Makhachev that is performing that with kettlebells. He's basically grabbing a kettlebell and he's doing this movement, which is pronosupination of your arm. And it's very important to increase the stability of your elbows. And the third thing that you can do is changing the way that you're performing techniques, so that you will reduce the impact that it has on your elbows. One example that comes to my mind, but it could be applied to your specific situation, is when you're performing Morote Seoinage, instead of grabbing the lapel high, you grab it a little bit lower. And when you grab it a little bit lower, it will allow you to have much increased range of motion, and you will have less strain on the medial side of your elbow. Okay? Or another thing that you can do, for example, in the case of Morote Seoinage, is to increase the mobility in the external rotation of your shoulder. Because if your shoulder is limited, but your hand still need to go backwards, it will increase the amount of tension that you will feel in the middle side of your elbow. So increasing mobility in other districts of your body is also increasing mobility in your shoulder can be something that can benefit also your elbow. But I get it that this is a lot of information, and maybe you don't need all of that stuff. Maybe you need just do some graded activity. Maybe you need to just start strength training your damn elbow. So If you need more personalized advice, you can write me down a comment, you can write me down an email, or book a one-on-one call with me when we talk about your situation and we see what are the solutions that we can find in order to solve your problem for free. I don't want any money for that. I want just to know your problems and give you a personalized solution, okay? Thank you for watching. Remember to aim upward as always.